Also, Craig is here. Craig is organizing a hockey trip on February 5 to Quinnipiac. Did I say that right? Quinnipiac. The #1 team in hockey right now. So I'm told. So it's going to be a great outing. You can let him know today if you'd like tickets. He'll get the tickets and we'll reimburse him. So please let him know. We're in Ecclesiastes chapter 4 this morning, so I'd encourage you to open a Bible there, digital or physical. I want to encourage you to try to walk away from our time together with an image, a word or a phrase, an action, a prayer, or a question. Ecclesiastes 4 can feel a bit like a hodgepodge of unrelated topics, which is really the case for the whole book. I like Warren Wiersbe's suggestion here for organizing it, and so we'll use that this morning. Sort of 4 different vignettes, looking in on life in 4 different areas, verses 1 through 3. Looking in on life in the courtroom, 4 through 8, looking at life as it plays out in the marketplace, 9 through 12, looking at life as it's experienced on the highway, and then 13 through 16 as life is experienced in the palace. So 4 avenues of life. I do think, and this doesn't come from Wiersbe, from another scholar, who suggests that really what pulls all of these together is the need for companionship. And so one of the things that we see in each 4 of these little vignettes is what life is like without friendship or without companions, or what it is like because we have friends, because we have. And that could be family, could be friendship, but all 4 of these sort of pick up the theme of what's life like here in this space with or without friends. So friendship really turns out to be the dominant theme here in chapter 4. That's probably what it's known most for, those who work through it. So just to get things kicked off, name someone on television, the movies, novels, or social media that you wish you were good friends with.
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso. Okay. He would be a great friend to have. Yes. Kim Kardashian. Oh. Who else? Who do you wish you were good friends with? David Brooks. David Brooks. Author.
Yeah.
Okay.
Robert Barron.
Robert
Barron.
Barron. Okay. That's not ringing a bell with me.
It's a bishop.
Huh?
It's a bishop.
Gotcha. Okay. Very good.
He is.
Yeah, that's good.
Who else? Who do you wish you were good friends with? Judge Marilyn, what's her last name?
People's Court.
At the People's Court. Okay, very good. As long as she's in your corner. Keanu Reeves. Oh, nice. Anyone else come to mind? Tom Hanks? Yes, he would be a great friend.
I think about Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds. Okay,
Been a lot of interviews.
he would be a fun friend.
He's very funny.
He would be a fun friend. And a friend with resources. Anyone else come to your mind?
Awesome. Tracy Morgan.
Tracy Morgan.
It's kind of goofy.
Yeah. Yes. Very fun. Yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld.
Seinfeld. Yeah. It'd be nice to have a comedian as a friend. Okay, some opening quotes here. This is a new book by Jenny Allen called Find Your People, Building Deep Community in a Lonely World. So it's a whole book devoted to the theme of Ecclesiastes 4. Picking up in the second sentence, as I mentioned, research says that more than 3 in 5 Americans report being chronically lonely, and that number is on the rise. These stats are indicators of a grave and costly crisis. Anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts are all on the rise. Scientists now warn that loneliness is worse for our health than obesity, smoking, lack of access to health care, and physical inactivity. So why are we letting it define our days? Is this living? Is this how life is supposed to go? Let me skip to the answer. No, it isn't supposed to be this way. You know what you were actually built for? Long, meaningful conversations with people who have known you for years and would donate their kidney if you need it. People who drop by with pizza and paper plates unannounced because they missed you and aren't afraid to intrude. Regular, unscheduled, and unhurried time with people who feel like family, even if they aren't. The obvious few who scream with joy when you share your awesome news and cry with you when you share your hard stuff. People who show up early to help you cook and stay late to clean up. People who hurt you and are hurt by you, but who choose to work through it with you instead of both of you quitting on each other. People who live on mission beside you, who challenge you and make you better. People who know they are your people and you are theirs. People who belong to each other. So let me just ask for reaction either to the opening statement that loneliness is worse than a lot of other things that we might think of as unhealthy, or these descriptions of kind of what makes up a good friendship. What comes to your mind when you think of, yeah, here's what a good friendship looks like to me? So either of those.
There are points about that. I think this person would patients go to unannounced driving. That's very good patient. Come get in your way, get on your dress, and come back into your life, go out. Hospital, sometimes we have to ask them to be because it's a duty to come and ask you every little details of your illness.
So there's something part of the culture, the
Yes.
Haitian culture, that seems friendly and fosters that.
And I hope, like, a lot of time, I think that if I die in chaos, that we will have to deal with.
Yes, Amy.
I have no trouble believing the statistics that were announced in the first part of this we're talking about. I think it's extremely reasonable and spot on, and trending worse. And I also, as you were reading the list of who your people are, as you went through each sentence, an image of an individual would come up into my head, or more than one. And I'm very grateful to say sometimes there were people in this place too.
Nice. Thank you. Okay, let's jump into the text then. So for these 4 vignettes of life tied together with the theme of companionship for the life. So Wiersbe suggests we think of this text as a look into the courtroom. Verse 1, again I saw all the oppressions that are done under the sun, and behold, the tears of the oppressed, and they had no one to comfort them. On the side of their oppressors, there was power, and there was no one to comfort them. And I thought the dead who are already dead, more fortunate than the living who are still alive. It's a great, encouraging line. But better than both is he who has not yet been and has not seen the evil deeds that are done under the sun. Okay, so three tragedies here: oppression and exploitation in the halls of justice, pain and sorrow in the lives of innocent people, and unconcern on the part of those who could have brought comfort, but didn't. And so in light of these tragedies, he decides it's better to be dead than to be alive and oppressed and have no one to bring comfort to you. In fact, it's better to have not been born at all than to see this kind of evil at work in the world. Henry Now, in his book, Out of Solitude: when we honestly ask ourselves which person in our lives means the most to us, we often find that it is those who, instead of giving advice, solutions, or cures, have chosen rather to share our pain and touch our wounds with a warm and tender hand. A friend who can be silent with us in a moment of despair or confusion, who can stay with us in an hour of grief and bereavement, who can tolerate not knowing, not curing, not healing, and face with us the reality of our powerlessness. Sorry, I've got one sheet here. Okay. Face with us the reality of our powerlessness. That is a friend who cares. So I think these first three verses, the image of people who are oppressed and suffering hard things without anyone to comfort them, I think it really raises a question like this: who do you call on when things are tough? Do you have a friend like that in your life? Would you be willing to share about that friend in your life?
Well, maybe we could start with God.
Okay. So you experience the friendship of God. Okay. And can you talk a little bit more about that? In what ways do you feel like God acts as a friend at times of tough?
I'll give you one little but huge example. Just trying to squeeze this down a bit. I have nothing to complain about, but I've had plenty to worry about, and some big worries. And you also remember this. God talked to me, and he just said, "Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It's going to be all right." And I take him at his word. It's never fails. Doesn't mean that the worries just evaporate, but when you have confidence that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, it helps. See, it helps so much. And I am 1000% convicted that it was God talking to me.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that is a good friend. Yes, Ed.
Well, after growing up and fighting my two brothers, which I'm sure everybody who had a sibling experienced or has a sibling, my next, I'm the oldest of the three of us. My next youngest brother, my little brother, we become really good friends. We understand each other, and there are times when he's really helped us out, and we help him out too. So it's nice when your biological family turns out to be your friend.
Yeah, because that's not always the case. And so I hear in there also some mutuality, that you can go to him with things that are difficult, he can come to you with things that are difficult. Both of you know that you'll receive each other in love and care. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, they may be different levels of what's tough. And what I'm trying to, so you would turn to who you think would be appropriate based on quote unquote toughness.
Mhm.
So there might be an emotional tough situation, you would turn a certain way. If there might be a, a financial tough situation, it might not be the same person. And so, I think you would turn to where you think is the appropriate spot to turn based on, shall we say, having an understanding of the array of folks that you interact with.
Yeah, that's good. So it's helpful to have a variety of friends with who you might go this one for this kind of issue in your life, or this one for another issue.
Yeah, and, just to suggest that it may not even be necessarily friends, because you might go a certain way for, legal advice or financial advice or, medical advice.
Right. So just going back to this text here, there we go. I think, it's kind of sobering how serious the preacher takes this as he's looked in on this scene and he's seen people who clearly have very serious issues in their life and they have no one to comfort him. And for him to say it would be better to be dead or not to have been born than to experience the hardness of life without comforters, without people in your life to comfort. Which is, why towards the end here, he's going to give the advice of it's vital to be bound up with other people in your life. So I think if you don't have those people in your life or those tough moments, let this text be a prompt to find those people. The next little vignette, verses. Go ahead.
This didn't fit your question, but I think this vignette raises questions about the authorship of the book. In terms of a king in Israel, I saw the tears of the oppressed and they have no comforter. Well, okay, that's your job, O king.
Yeah.
And then you move over to the next chapter, chapter 5, verses 8 to 9. If you see the poor oppressed in a district and justice and rights denied, do not be surprised at such things. Happens all the time. Royal king declares. For one official is eyed by a higher one, and over them both are others higher still. The increase of the land is taken by all. The king himself profits from the fields. Okay, who writes the book? It's someone in the court, but it's someone who observes the court. But it's doubtful that it all comes from the king himself.
Right. Yeah. Because if it does, this is not a very good king.
Right.
Yeah. He is not a friend of the people. Yeah. 4 through 8, the marketplace. Then I saw that all toil and all skill and work come from a man's envy of his neighbor. This is also vanity and a striving after wind. The fool folds his hands and eats his own flesh. Better is a handful of quietness than 2 hands full of toil and a striving after wind. Again, I saw vanity under the sun, one person who has no other, either son or brother, yet there is no end to all his toil, and all his eyes are never satisfied with riches, so that he never asks, for whom am I toiling and depriving myself of pleasure? This also is vanity and an unhappy business. Okay, what problems does he see as he looks out into the marketplace connected to toiling, laboring, working? What are the problems that he sees? Aaron?
He's looking at people whose God is a prophet.
Whose God is prophet?
God is a prophet.
Okay.
It's all around. I mean, what I was gonna say about the last thing we're talking about is if you look at the end of chapter 3, it talks about the king coming back and seeing that all the oppression, that man should be rejoicing in his hard work, and that there's oppression against the same thing. And this is again, if you work just to work, if your goal or your God is riches, you don't gain anything.
Okay, so there's a certain meaninglessness.
It dovetails back into chapter 3.
Yeah,
Where you've spent your entire life amassing this huge fortune, you're gonna die. Where's gonna go after that? You
Right.
can't take that with you, and nobody's gonna say, hey, he was a really good guy with all this money that he gave you. Because he's not gonna spend it.
yeah,
I mean, it's Scrooge.
yeah.
Sort of Scrooge all for the first time.
Good. What else? What other troubles does he see in the marketplace around labor, work, toiling? Good.
It seems like, there's some question about what's the motive, there's toil, drive, success. It's simply to have, not so much. And one, just because he says it gives the end of his name, that's kind of say, just to have something, just to have best.
Yeah. So there's labor and toil motivated by wealth or riches. There's labor and toil motivated by maybe it's like social standing, wanting to be better than the neighbor, wanting to have a better social standing than other people, which leads to a certain meaninglessness in the work. What else? What else do you see in there, Scott?
It's a substitute of toil or relationship, which, to me, that's the core of this problem. And we somehow think that because we've sacrificed toil or relationships, that somehow more toil is going to invigorate the pain that comes from that relationship. It never does. You have a miserable job, you're making a lot of money. Making a little bit more money is not going to make you happy. But that's the trap that we often find ourselves in.
Yeah. Yeah. So this question, for whom am I toiling and depriving myself of pleasure, is a question about community and connection. That there's an absence of that in the life of this individual because of their narrow focus on toil and labor for whatever the motivation is. And the author is pushing against that, saying that there's something meaninglessness. If labor is not taking place in the context of community, there's something meaningless about that labor.
I think he's also warning against the pervasiveness of it, because if it's in the marketplace, which makes it plural, it makes it for all of us. So if every person or many people are doing that, it's all this sort of internal focus, which means there's lots of pockets of internal focusing, leading for even less opportunity for relationship. It's not just you in a sea of people who are trying to create relationship. So the more pervasive it is, it almost exponentially increases the inability for a relationship to happen. Because if Dale's doing it, I'm doing it, he's doing it, it's going to decrease that opportunity, not just for us as individuals, but for us for others. So it's a very global state. It's personal, but it's global at the same time.
Yeah, so you can almost picture this crowd of people in the marketplace, and everyone's laboring and toiling, but
Looking out for
there's
themselves.
no real community
Right.
among anybody. Yeah, Scott.
As our teacher, I want to challenge you because it's so important to have share process, including the fact that as we're reading this, I'm thinking to myself, Well, then he also say there's nothing better for a man than to work and find satisfaction in that, so we'll let you resolve that process.
Yeah, I think you're saying, or at least suggesting that doing that work with others or in community with others is what makes it meaningful. Yeah,
It's a pro-union.
it's a pro-union book. So Wearsby again, dividing this up, verse 4 is the industrious man, finding a laborer who's working hard, skillful at his work, competent. But the king is disappointed because the only reason this person's working is to make more money than their neighbors. The idle man, verses 5 through 6, where you find someone who has no ambition at all, not doing any hard labor, and the king used that negatively. The integrated man, verse 6, a man whose life is balanced, he's productive, he takes time for quietness, but he thinks that money will bring him peace, and he has no time to enjoy it. And then I think it's got one more here, the independent man, verses 7 and 8. So the king sees a solitary man, hard at work, discovers he has no relatives, no partners to help him in his business, and just is keeping this profit for himself. And in the end, that labor also is vain. Hey, Melanie, Pooh, I wonder what Piglet's doing, thought Pooh. I wish I were there to be doing it too. Okay, so friendship in the world of Winnie the Pooh is an opportunity to do things together, to do things in community, to find community in work. So how would you describe the difference between engaging in labor with great coworkers and engaging in labor with no coworkers? What are the pros and cons of either one in your experience?
Might depend a little bit on your temperament.
Okay, you want to say more about that?
Well, I mean, some people work better by themselves and don't work with the man all that well, and they work fine by themselves. Other people find no joy unless it's joy with fellow workers.
Yeah. So we might exist on a continuum here in terms of solitary work and communal work. Yeah.
Well, that whole statement there is like maybe a little bit unrealistic to me, because the choice is great coworkers and no coworkers. When the reality has been in my past that I was working in the kitchen of a restaurant. There was a young lady who was in charge. She went on vacation for a week, and I was in charge for her. And another coworker had just kind of didn't want to really do his share. So when I tried hard to be nice and said, we need this to be done. We're going to have to do all this. And so I was a bitch in his eyes. I didn't really care about that. But coworkers are not always great.
Right, that's right. Right, yeah. So sometimes there's a cost to toiling and laboring with others, right?
I think when it comes to when we're talking about works, is the question of what the objective is. Because what I find is, I run into quite a bit. What I find is the competition that you find at your job, you don't find it when you volunteer. When you're volunteer, when you with a group of people doing volunteer work, whether you're doing all the work somebody are just in there, you don't see it. Everybody's just employed, doing whatever work that has to be done. Nobody's doing work. I find that there is more joy when there is no gain in watching your no personal gain person.
Hmm.
And what you're doing when it comes to the work itself. And when you are the job, okay, if I do this, you get the credit, you get the promotion.
Yeah. So the kind of toil and labor that involves a cause that's greater than ourselves may have more potential to bind us together, to pull us together and allow us to experience real community than kind of rat race in the marketplace. Yeah. But again, so this vignette just sort of raises the question of what is my community like in the marketplace, and am I working in such a way that community could be fostered. The highway 9 through 12. These might be some of the most well-known words out of Ecclesiastes. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow, but woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to lift him up. Again, if 2 lie together, they keep warm, but how can one keep warm alone? And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, 2 will withstand him. A threefold cord is not quickly broken. So Wiersbe, two are better than 1 when it comes to working, because 2 workers can get more done. Even if they divide the profits, they still get a better return for their efforts. 2 are better than 1 when it comes to walking. Roads and paths in Palestine were not paved or even leveled. There were many hidden rocks in the fields. It was not uncommon for even the most experienced traveler to stumble and fall. How wonderful to have a friend who can help you up or out. So walking, working, warmth. 2 are better than 1 when it comes to warmth. 2 travelers camping out or even staying in the courtyard of a public inn would feel the cold of a Palestinian night and need one another's warmth for comfort. And then 2 are better than 1 when it comes to watch care. NIV translates verse 12. Though 1 may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. So the author starts with 1 and moves to 2, verse 9, then 3, verse 12. Typical in Hebrew literature, 1 cord could be broken easily, 2 would require more strength, 3 woven together could not be easily broken. This quote from C.S. Lewis in The Four Loves. In friendship, we think we've chosen our peers. In reality, a few years difference in the dates of our births, a few more miles between certain houses, choice of one university instead of another, the accident of a topic being raised or not being raised at a first meeting, any of these chances might have kept us apart. But for a Christian, there are, strictly speaking, no chances. A secret master of ceremonies has been at work. Christ, who said to the disciples, "You've not chosen me, but I've chosen you," can truly say to every group of Christian friends, "You've not chosen one another, but I've chosen you for one another." The friendship is not a reward for our discriminating in good taste in finding one another out. It is the instrument by which God reveals to each of us the beauties of others. So I wonder if you just kind of reflect on that. Can you identify friends in your life whom it seems that God chose for you, rather than maybe friends that you worked really hard to cultivate that friendship? Are there friends in your life that it feels like, yeah, God put them on the road with you? Aaron?
Guys that I get together with every Friday. Now, considering it's a 35-mile trip one way to get to there. We've known each other for the better part of probably almost, no, longer than that, so over 2 decades. Literally random chance. Well, if I believe in random chance, this would be it. One of them's wife works at a store that I used to frequent when I went there within One of them, like I said, I'm looking through all, every time you bring the difference in age, I'm now the oldest of the group. One of them has went to college. One of them is the nephew of the guy whose wife I had. Like I said, it's not random, to me, it's not random chance. Go to this guy who told me, go here. And I went there and I things replaced it. And, here I am 20 odd years later, still hanging out with the same.
Wow. Yeah, that's really remarkable. So you can look at that group and see, yeah, God's really been at work here, bringing us together, keeping us together.
And the wife that he met is one of my best friends.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Annie and then Julie.
There's of course different level of friendships that you have with different people, but when you get to that point where you feel you can be vulnerable, and I think it goes back to the question we've been asked about when times get tough. To speak to heart about kind of depends on what the situation is, but there's, I might go to different people for different things, but the blanket statement above all is that you feel like you can be authentic and vulnerable. So, and I think because God calls us to be authentic and vulnerable with Him. So if I really feel that authenticity, that ability to be vulnerable, and that exchange can happen, and it certainly happens repeatedly. And again, I think of people in this church, people in this room. It's very easy to make a God connection because it's just an expression of God.
Thank you. Julie?
I was gonna say, obviously the church is this community where God has just chosen to be recognized. You're gonna have different levels of friendship with people and called to be there for each other. So, church is an example. And you're somebody who just moved here, so these are your friends now. When you change churches and whatever, you got a new community, you got yourself in that community. Church is good.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Judy, beat me to it, because I was going to compare this church with old friends that I have, these old friends, and that's how I see the church. They treat a lot of people that left the church and they came back, it's like the it's the same thing, but I have a few friends that sometimes we don't talk for 6 months, and I just drop by. One time I dropped by friends and they had this big party. Everybody was there, but I wasn't invited. So I went in, I ate, and I left. So, just enough that it wasn't there for me, somebody was using their house. Yeah, we have another mutual friend, that's why I wasn't invited. But I didn't make an explanation. So I'm just, and I felt people do that here the same way. They left, we never see them, they come back, and it's like they never left. We treat them as if they were always part of the church, so I guess. But it's more lives that we can always rely on.
Good.
I just want to take advantage of this opportunity, not to put you on the spot. You're the newest in this group. This is a random group of people that came together through whatever path and stand together now. So that's who you are a part of and sitting amongst right now. And I predict 5 or 10 years from now, we'll have a conversation where we'll say, yeah, that's where we're at. Not the
Okay, good conversation. We're out of time. So one of my hopes is that this chapter in Ecclesiastes might just prompt us to think about our friendships, our community, how we're experiencing it, and how we're providing for other people as well. All right. Thank you.
I just want to share with you the sadness in my family. Over the week, we find that I got to know that one of my nieces, she's like my cousin, second cousin, but she's like my niece because I was raised by her grandmother for 50 years. She just passed unexpectedly. she was at sometimes, but she would go back that she did. But it wasn't anything major. She went home Tuesday night. My husband went to work and got came back and find her conscious and she
I'm so sorry to hear that.
said, oh,
Where she lived.
maybe, so.
Thank you for letting us know.